He will take the league minimum of $1.21 million, stick the Broncos for the balance of the $39 million he's fully guaranteed, and go to the Raiders.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Wilson appears to have already made his decision on where he wants to play in 2024.
Go to the AFC, there's no team that even fits that bill. There's nobody. The Raiders are the only one.
Whether fans like it or not, it looks like the Raiders are the perfect destination for Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited. Unlimited.
We're going to break down exactly why I believe this will happen, and I'll give my take on if it's the right decision. But for now, Raider Nation, let's raid.
Broncos country, let's ride. We're Broncos country, and let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's ride.
So if you're watching this video right now, most of you know what happened. Russell Wilson is set to be released by the Denver Broncos. They let him know about this on Monday, and now wherever Russell Wilson signs, it is likely going to be for the veteran minimum, because the Denver Broncos are going to be paying the rest of Russell Wilson's contract, $39 million in 2024. The Russell Wilson release is historic. It is going to be recognized as the biggest dead money release in NFL history, a whopping total of $85 million in dead cap, largest in history. But the main problem that I see happening in the NFL media is there's this false narrative going around that Sean Payton gave Russell Wilson a shot and he was really trying to save his career in 2023, but oh shucks, it just did not work out. That is complete bullshit. Terry Bradshaw in the offseason, before Russell Wilson ever played a down with Sean Payton, let it slip that Sean Payton doesn't really like Mr. Unlimited.
Arizona, no, that quarterback. You don't want to work with that quarterback.
But he'd rather work with Russ?
I don't think so, but you know what? That's all he's got.
Yeah. Well,
he's got no choice.
He's got no choice. That's all he's got. Kyler Murray and Mr. Call of Duty caught astray in the meantime. But to me, it's always been obvious that Sean Payton was going to rebuild the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson was a leftover signing from that 2022 Nathaniel Hackett season. And by the way, the Broncos did not originally think they were going to have to get Russell Wilson.
I've talked to people inside the building who told me that it is a real possibility Aaron Rodgers could end up with the Denver Broncos.
Obviously, if you sign Nathaniel Hackett as your head coach, you're trying to get Aaron Rodgers, but for some reason, Rodgers ended up staying in Green Bay in 2022. So Russell Wilson, after leaving the Seattle Seahawks, is kind of caught in a weird place. In 2 consecutive seasons, he has been matched with a head coach who was not exactly supposed to be paired with him. The NFL was a completely different world just 2 years ago. You might ask yourself, why the hell would the Broncos give a massive haul for Russell Wilson, even if they got a head coach who's not supposed to be paired with a guy in Nathaniel Hackett? Well, around that time, Deshaun Watson signed a record-setting deal with the Cleveland Browns, the largest contract in NFL history, especially in terms of guaranteed money. So this massive $242 million contract for Russell Wilson was not exactly considered out of the ordinary, and if anything, it was even less than somebody like Deshaun Watson was making around 2022. The bottom line is Russell Wilson needs to find a new home in 2024, and it seems like Las Vegas is the perfect match. He'll be able to go against his new arch nemesis Sean Payton twice a year.
You're not giving Aidan O'Connell a lot of money, so you can replace him like that. If Russell Wilson's going to play for the league minimum because Denver's paying him the $39 million anyway, it is an immediate upgrade. It is in the division with the Denver Broncos. And if I'm a Raider fan, not that I think that Russell Wilson, is the greatest quarterback in the league anymore. He's not. But it's a significant upgrade of what I got. It doesn't cost me a nickel to go get him.
That is Russell Wilson's biggest selling point right now, is that he is cheap. He's a good deal. He's practically free, cheaper than any first-round pick rookie quarterback. You're not going to have to give up any draft capital to get the guy. And if you're the Raiders, you already beat the Chiefs last year towards the end of the season. You were able to get an 8-9 record with half of the year dealing with the head case of Josh McDaniels. There's no way you can look yourself in the mirror and say that the Raiders would not be a better team with adding somebody like Russell Wilson, even if it's only marginally better. Say what you want about Russell Wilson, but even when he was dealing with an egomaniac, an overrated egomaniac like Sean Payton, by the way, sorry Saints fans, but you gotta admit this, Mr. Bountygate did not even want Russell Wilson last year. Russell Wilson was still 9th in touchdown passes in the NFL while throwing only 8 interceptions. That is really great. Top 10 numbers in the entire NFL, and that is with missing a couple games because Peyton had to bench the guy for Jarrett freaking Stidham. And remember, 2020, it was not that long ago. Before he had to deal with Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton, and his last injured year in Seattle with Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson in 2020 was second in the NFL in passing touchdowns, right behind the MVP Aaron Rodgers.
You know, win or lose, you know, God is good. And I'm just grateful that he gave me an opportunity. God did, and Paul, you know, and this organization, you know, I love playing here.
It was in this moment when Russell Wilson was considered one of the top 3, top 5 quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Russell Wilson has a bone to pick with Sean Payton. The way he was done dirty in Denver has to not sit right with the guy. It reminds me so much of the Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr situation, where you're selling this guy on this idea that you're really trying to make it work with him when the whole time you're planning on moving on from the guy. And then sure enough, like clockwork, both of these guys, Wilson and Carr, get benched with 2 games left due to injury guarantees and replaced with Jarrett freaking Stidham. And Russell Wilson kind of breaks down exactly what happened here. The fact that the Broncos, even after he beat the freaking Chiefs, wanted this guy to push back his injury guarantees, signaling that they're moving on.
And I didn't believe it at first. I was like, this can't be real. And I got that call that, hey, we're going to bench you for the next 9 games if you don't change your injury guarantee. So for me, there was no way I was going to do that. And so when they said, hey, we're going to bench you, I said, all right, that's what you want to do.
Bro, that's like extortion.
Why would a player give up their leverage? Why would a player give up their injury guarantees if the Broncos come up to you and say, hey, can you push back your injury guarantees till next year or we're going to bench you? Obviously, they're planning on moving on from the guy. What's the most crazy thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to is Russell Wilson knew this was happening throughout most of this season. Russell Wilson knew the whole time privately in the background that they wanted to bench him unless he waives his injury guarantees, and he was still able to go out there and be 9th in the NFL in touchdown passes despite knowing the current team that he's playing for wants to move on from him. So if you are the Las Vegas Raiders, you need a quarterback. You are picking at pick number 13 behind the Denver Broncos in the 2024 NFL Draft. Do you really think it's going to be easy to go up there and trade into the top 3 picks and select your franchise quarterback? Probably not. And you're going to need an insurance policy. And that is why the Las Vegas Raiders are listed as one of the top destinations for Russell Wilson, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. There's other teams that Russell Wilson could go to, but you can cross the Pittsburgh Steelers off this list. There's been numerous reports that the Pittsburgh Steelers are content to roll with Kenny Pickett, let him duke it out with Mason Rudolph, and see what happens in 2024. And that makes sense because the Steelers did invest a first-round pick in Kenny Pickett, but it looks like, according to all these reports, if they're true and they're from the top NFL insiders, the Steelers are not going to pursue Russell Wilson. DraftKings Sportsbook has the probability, the odds of where Russell Wilson could go to. The Steelers were the number 1 favorited at -200, Raiders right behind them at +275, and then you got the Falcons after that. But according to these reports, and I think they're legit because of the first-round pick Kenny Pickett situation, I think you got to cross the Steelers off this list. Therefore, the Raiders become the most likely, according to the gambling odds, most likely destination for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson to Vegas is heating up, and some talking heads believe he wants to go there.
Sense I got back then was if they cut him, he will take the league minimum of $1.21 million, stick the Broncos for the balance of the $39 million he's fully guaranteed, and go to the Raiders. Now, the Raiders might not want him, but that's the most obvious, spiteful, I'm going to go to the other team in your division that probably needs a quarterback, and I'm going to play for them, and I'm going to stick it to you, so there.
Would the Raiders want Russell Wilson? I believe the Raiders would want Russell Wilson. I believe it's unrealistic to think that the Raiders can trade up and get Jayden Daniels. Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Raiders, has a personal friendship, a relationship with Jayden Daniels, and has made it quite obvious that's where the Raiders want to go at quarterback in terms of the draft. But the Raiders Raiders are picking at pick 13. The Denver Broncos are ahead of them. The New England Patriots need a quarterback in addition to the Commanders, obviously the Bears, obviously the Atlanta Falcons also need a quarterback, but you even have reports lately saying that the New York Giants would be interested in pursuing a quarterback not fully committed to Daniel Jones. So I think there's too many people who also want to trade up, who are picking even higher than the Las Vegas Raiders. So I believe it's unrealistic to think that the Raiders could just easily trade up and grab Jaden Daniels. You have the Athletics saying the Raiders may be trying to, if the Raiders did swap with the Tennessee Titans at pick 7 and Jaden Daniels falls there at pick 7, I still don't think you immediately want to play this guy in year 1. We know weight has been a concern with him. It's one of his main cons, the fact that the guy is not weighing himself at the combine. Does he have something to hide? You watch him play on the football field, he obviously looks tinier and thinner than most of the other quarterbacks. Perhaps Jaden Daniels would benefit from sitting 1 full year in his rookie season. We've seen a number of quarterbacks do this. Lamar Jackson did not start right away. Joe Flacco was the starter, and then later on in the season, he came in as the starter. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. Jordan Love sat for a number of years. And in the past, this used to be the norm for quarterbacks. I think if you're somebody like Jaden Daniels dealing with the weight issue, sitting behind Russell Wilson would only benefit the guy long term.
I'm not sure the Raiders want him. You listen to Antonio Pierce, and there's reports they want to trade up from 13 in the draft. He doesn't want a Band-Aid solution. He wants a young guy that comes in and becomes a 10 to 15-year starter.
That's right.
So take them off the board.
Right. And
so I don't really believe that Antonio Pierce does not want a Band-Aid solution. Do we know how long he's going to the Commanders or the Patriots at pick 2 or 3? The Raiders could still select somebody like Michael Penix Jr., a man who has injury issues, or Bo Nix, and have them sit for a year behind Russell Wilson. I think both of those quarterbacks would benefit from a situation like that.
Does Russell Wilson really seem like an Antonio Pierce type of guy anyways? You know, I would say no.
Another question arises, does Russell Wilson fit the culture of the Raiders? Is he going to be rolling through in a 6'4" Impala, smoking cigars with Antonio Pierce, rocking Air Force Ones? Maybe not, but I'm sure Antonio Pierce at times when he's having drinks with his wife has bumped some Ciara nonstop. People have been critical of the fact that Russell Wilson does seem like he's into social media a lot.
Been grinding all my life, sacrifice, hustle paid the price, want a slice.
Okay, yes, it is a little cheesy sometimes. We've seen the Subway commercials that he's done.
It's dangerously good. Be careful though, it's spicy.
Here comes the airplane.
We've seen all the TikToks from Russell Wilson. It makes sense. His wife is a pop star. He's likely going to be into social media.
Hey, Seattle, we got a deal.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. But I'm going to see y'all in the morning.
Good night.
Time for y'all to go to bed.
So when you're at the house, you in your own kitchen, you got to get the whole squad here ready to pick out your suits. All right, this is how you do it. It's either yes or no. You either love it or you don't like it. All right, you ready? Y'all ready?
But to me, his wife is even more of a reason why he's likely going to choose Vegas over somewhere like Atlanta. It is an entertainment capital. She can have a residency in Las Vegas and perform tons of concerts. Perhaps Antonio Pierce's Compton type of swagger would be the perfect balance for somebody like Russell Wilson, who had his famous slogan last year, Broncos country, let's ride. But honestly, I think this culture fit thing is really overblown. I think it's the fact that Russell Wilson sometimes could sound a little churchy, a little corny, and so people start making other assumptions about who he is because of that. I don't know what people want from this guy. Is he supposed to act like something he's not, be smoking a blunt, listening to some gangster rap when that's not who he is? And honestly, Raider Nation, we had a churchy quarterback for 10 years, a man by the name of Derek Carr. And in my opinion, I think we could use a guy like that right now, especially in Sin City, Las Vegas. All I'm going to say is I fully support the Raiders pursuing Russell Wilson. I think he's hungry. I think his time is now at 35 years old to make one last pitch, one last stop, to put the cherry on top of his career. And he's got weapons in Vegas like Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and quite possibly Josh Jacobs to make it happen. The deal is too cheap. It has a high ceiling and a low floor. I believe the Raiders should make it happen. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Like this video if you have not yet, and subscribe to this channel for more content from me. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.